Okay, we should be recording now. Great. Well, welcome everyone to the Elevate Quantum Roundtable on education. We're really looking forward to today's conversation. I think we have some really interesting things to share with you. Want to hear from you as educators. And to get things started, Jesse, do you want to share a little bit of context on Elevate Quantum, sort of why we're all gathered here today, and sort of what this is all about?
Yeah, absolutely. So Jesse Olson, Chief Operating and Financial Officer with Elevate Quantum. I think most here probably part of our workforce collaborative. I'm assuming that's how you got connected in, but for anybody who's not, we'll get you added in. At a high level, so for those that don't know us, we are first and only federally designated and funded quantum tech hub in the country. And so with that, our mission centers around four different pillars. We have a product and services element of what we do. We have a 70-acre campus out in Arvada here in Colorado, as well as a partnership with UNM in New Mexico to stand up low volume, rapid turnaround manufacturing facility or fabrication facilities, as well as open access lab space. We also have an element of our work that's around bringing funding into the region, supporting startups. We've got another piece of what we do with ecosystem building, making sure we've got the right supply chains and support structures in place. And then the last piece, and that is what this group is here for today, is around workforce. Through our award, we have some money that is set aside for workforce activities. But then more than that, we've got this workforce collaborative that we've got an advisory board that Bradley's on, and then this larger collaborative of over 140 organizations. And the goal is to take everything that exists in the environment, find ways that we can help amplify it so that we can hit our goal over the next 5 years of engaging 10,000 learners in quantum pathways. That's the quick version.
So thanks, Jesse. So we should do quick introductions for the folks who will be presenting today, just so you know who is all on the call. So maybe David, do you want to introduce yourself real quick, and then Chris and Safe, and I think we have Olivia. I don't know if I'm going to make her speak or not, but if she wants to, she can introduce herself. So David, do you want to share who you are? And yeah.
Yeah, and then I'll pass it over to Chris. So yeah, hey everyone, David Lopez, just really passionate and excited about kind of igniting all things quantum here in Colorado, working alongside Jesse and the Elevate Quantum team, all things workforce development. And with that, excited to engage in this conversation. I'll pass it over to Chris.
Thanks so much, David. Yeah, I'm Chris Porter. I'm a content and communications manager at IBM Quantum. Before that, I was in the physics department at OSU. And so I have a background in both physics and physics education research. And so this project is really right up my alley. It's everything that I love. I'll pass it off to Saif.
Hi, my name is Saif Rayan, and I work closely with Chris and Bradley on quantum education curriculum strategy. I'm very interested in working with the teachers and faculty, kind of understanding what does it take to integrate some of the curriculum that we develop here at IBM, and what support do they need.
Great, thanks, Safe. And Olivia's mostly listening, but if you want to introduce yourself, you're welcome to. But don't feel any pressure to.
Yeah, I'm happy to say
okay.
hi very briefly. I lost my voice. I have some laryngitis, so I'm not going to be commenting too much. But I'm Olivia. I work closely with all of those people, and I'm leading the global education program at IBM Quantum. And I'm very excited to participate in this discussion, although I might mostly be typing.
Awesome. Thanks, Olivia. I think most of you know me, but I'm Bradley Holt. I'm at IBM Quantum. I work on workforce development partnerships with regional technology centers like Elevate Quantum. So basically, how do we connect the dots between academia, between industry, between government to really build a quantum workforce and put all the pieces together to make that work. Previously, I actually launched our internship program within IBM. I think it was the largest internship program in the field of quantum. And my background is actually as a classical software developer, so it's interesting to see this entirely new type of computing emerge and be a part of that, and sort of interesting to see where the parallels and where the differences will be between how computer science started. So yeah, so with that, I think what we want to do today is really start out hearing from you as educators on just start with the discussion about what would be helpful to you in incorporating quantum computing into your classrooms. From there, Chris is going to walk you through the Qiskit in class learning modules to help you understand what they are, how they're intended to be used. But we really want to hear your feedback, right? Are these useful to you? Is this what you're looking for? So following that, we'll have a discussion on how this fits your needs. If you have any feedback for us, do you see where you could begin incorporating this, etc. So with that, I think we'll just start with about a 10 or 15-minute conversation on sort of what are your needs, right? And we could either do this as an open-ended conversation, like if you already know, like, hey, I know exactly what I need to bring quantum into my curriculum. If you already have those thoughts laid out, definitely go ahead and speak up. Otherwise, I can kind of prompt you with a few questions. But I guess I'd start out with, do you already have some courses where you could see incorporating quantum computing into your existing courses, right? Do you already have some thoughts of where you would do this or how you would do this?
And maybe so it's not everybody all at once. I know, Bradley, maybe we've talked briefly about, there is maybe Chem 1 at the community college level can be a good opportunity, based on if that's what, the certain system offers. And maybe Chris, you can jump into here too if you have any recommendations around, if certain colleges or systems on the call, have courses that are similar in that, general STEM education, starting at community college level, though I think Bradley and, and maybe Bradley too, you can give insight into that Qiskit platform to give maybe some of the educators that weren't on the March 7th call, some insight into how we're approaching kind of the, what the needs are question.
Yes, I can talk a little bit about that. And Chris, feel free to jump in because you're more of an expert in it than you actually are involved in writing many of these modules. But I'd say that a lot of these modules really started looking first at quantum mechanics courses, just because it was sort of a natural place to start. So you'll see the first 4 modules that Chris is going to walk through are really aimed there. But we do have a roadmap to create more of these, right? Like computer science is the next place, one of the next places we're looking at. And then other areas from there. But I don't know if you want to say anything else to that, Chris. Or
Yeah, just to frame this a little bit, there's an argument to be made for incorporating quantum computing in lots of different places. It could have a splash that we don't see coming yet. But our strategy was to look at courses and disciplines that are most likely to have some future quantum practitioners in them to try to have the biggest effect possible. So we were looking at things like traditional STEM courses, like quantum mechanics, like the sort of junior-ish course in a physics department, things like analytical chemistry, or quantum chemistry or computational chemistry is what I meant to say. And then, some of the like algorithms courses in CSE contexts. That's what we were thinking. But we're very interested to know where do other people see quantum computing having a home in traditional STEM courses?
so feel free to jump in if anyone has any thoughts on that. You can either raise your hand or feel free to just come off mute if you'd like.
I can go. I'm Jenna. I run the Optics and Laser Technology program at Front Range Community College. I think just to say something that I think might be applicable to a lot of people here, having just sort of really accessible introductory material to people who are technical in a very similar field. I don't even want to say adjacent because optics is so close to quantum, it doesn't feel adjacent, would be really helpful. So just like that sort of just introductory material, no calculus, what is quantum computing, what is superposition, what is entanglement. That's what would help us the most.
How you doing, everybody? My name is Alejandro de la Puente. I'm with the Society of Physics students. I'm reading this cool book called Cues for Quantum, and I am a quantum physicist, but not in a quantum computing sort of sense, but more fundamental particle physics sort of sense. I think after reading this book, I noticed that there's in order to really understand this book, you don't need any quantum. You need actually a good foundation with logic. Just being able to do logic, if statements, then statements, and ors. I think implementing some sort of quantum curriculum or base into math classes, very elementary math classes, or even just logic classes could have a good effect on students and future understanding with more advanced components of quantum logic or computing.
Okay.
I'm happy to jump in from a technical college perspective. So I'm Linda Van Doren. I work at Emily Griffith Technical College, and we are developing a quantum technician program, which really will not get deep into the world of quantum computing, but rather it will provide a foundation for technicians who may be supporting some of the quantum industry roles. So from that perspective, I echo what both Alejandro and Jenna talked about, just some really some basic information. I think I love the idea of the logic. I think too, what we're hearing, and hopefully this can be confirmed, is that for someone who's especially in a technician space, and these are folks maybe without college degrees, potentially even without an associate's degree, we're creating pathways for those completers of a quantum tech program to move into, say, a program like Jenna is running. But we want to make sure that the students have also the soft skills or the essential skills to be able to function in a team that supports engineers in some of the challenges that they're having. So things like technical documentation, identifying where problems may happen, and how to then either replicate that problem or tell an engineer or a physicist what's happening so that then can be problem solved. Those kinds of skills are things that I'm interested in as well for the program that we're developing. I think too, creating the awareness of what is beyond like a quantum tech position, so that if a student or an employee wanted to move into positions that either have more educational requirements, more technical math level, whatever that might look like, that we're able to present that as well. So, and we're building this program. We don't offer this program yet, so I'm just really happy to be part of the conversation. So thanks.
That's all. Thank you. Good stuff. Yeah. Okay. And I guess what's okay.
So actually, I'll build off of what Linda said. My name's
Yeah.
Tikar Dukel. I'm from Colorado Mountain College. I'm not a faculty member. My faculty members are teaching, so I'm representing. The faculty members that I spoke to, they themselves have experience in physics and Python and these sorts of things. And their feedback was that the material that they saw, they saw that the quantum concepts might fit really well into upper level physics or engineering aligned courses, but our current students probably don't have the prerequisites for that direct integration to happen immediately. However, kind of the concepts that Linda was speaking about is more of kind of the technician level. Those are also hold intrigue for me as well.
Well, let me chime in as well. So I'm Fred Sarazen. I'm the Department Head of Physics and the Director of Quantum here at Colorado School of Mines. So we have a graduate program in quantum engineering. We have advanced courses, of course, in quantum in the physics department, and we also kind of looking towards maybe even an undergraduate program in quantum, which is completely TBD. Within the quantum engineering program, the graduate program, we have a quantum programming class. So there's a lot of places where those things could be introduced. But I'm very new to this actually, in a sense. So I'm mostly going to listen here to see how what are you going to be talking about and kind of get to speed a little bit. But Minds as a partner of EQ is really looking towards workforce development. I would say, we started with the graduate program, but we're going to probably go into the undergraduate program as well. So we're very interested in the conversation.
That's good to hear. Yeah, I'm excited to hear that you're considering an undergrad program as well. So I was familiar with the graduate program. So yeah,
TBD, TBD, TBD,
TBD, TBD. Yes, no commitment for sure. Understood.
Hi, I'm Bodie Rogers. I'm chair of physics at CU Denver. We have a quantum information technology certificate program up and running. It's 2 courses, one on quantum computing, one on quantum algorithms, and then 2 lab courses on quantum technology. Those program is running right now. It's got a cross listing between electrical engineering and physics at both the undergraduate and the graduate level. We're also just bringing online a badging and micro-credentialing system for the university that our department is looking at heavily for things like modular way of presenting material that could be something done independent or could be embedded in coursework. So I'm thinking a lot about how to break things up into smaller chunks that can stack to things. And I think a lot of the quantum education materials will lend to that nicely.
Yeah, and I think from a I'll say like a pathways perspective, definitely the micro credentials, the stacking approach that you're describing is really important, especially for across the ecosystem, right? The ability to be able to move and like go from one step to the next, right? So I think that's a really important point. Okay, great.
I can chime in from Boulder. This is Sean Shaheen. I'm in the electro engineering program here. I'm also the coordinator for a quantum engineering minor that we launched a couple years ago, and it's gotten a lot of attention. Students are pretty enthusiastic. Enrollment's up to about 50. And there's a required introduction to quantum computing course, which we borrow from the computer science department, CSCI 3090. It's also cross-listed as physics 3090. And so I think content from IBM Qiskit could be very useful there. Maybe Bobby Schnabel, I think, is on the line. He might comment as well. I also teach a course on unconventional computing, and some of the student projects are quantum computing based. And they immediately run into quantum error correction as a critical activity. And any algorithm is going to require, any hardware is going to require error correction. So I think if Qiskit, and perhaps it already does, has some sort of easy entry points in the quantum error correction, that would be useful.
Okay. Yep, that's a good point. Okay. Yeah, so this is all good stuff. I think I don't want to cut short the conversation. For the interest of time, I do think we should probably move on, Chris, to the maybe an overview of the learning modules, and then we'll go back to some conversation once you had a chance to see that, sort of see how this maps to what we just heard, what you're looking for, just sort of get your general impressions and any follow-up questions and sort of what makes sense from there. So does that sound good to everyone? Or? Okay, awesome. So I'll hand it over to you, Chris. Yep.
Thanks, Bradley, and thanks everybody for those initial thoughts. I really want to take Sean's unconventional computing course. That sounds amazing. I wonder what all that includes. So let me share my screen here. Everybody see that? I'll assume yes. Okay, cool. So yeah, I want to talk a little bit about a project that we're calling Qiskit in Classrooms and see how it is a fit and how it is not a fit to some of the things that you all just described. I want to frame it just a little bit by pointing out that IBM Quantum has kind of a lot to recommend itself in terms of people who are just getting interested in quantum computing. Like there's a huge body of Qiskit users and a huge network of industry clients and partners that are building off of Qiskit. And we have these 127 qubit quantum computers that you can use for free for 10 minutes each month. And there's lots of quality educational content on the IBM Quantum Learning Platform. And that's this site, and we can link to it. But you've probably all explored it before. It has courses and tutorials and badging and other learning resources like documentation. And it covers a wide variety of topics like basics of quantum information, various algorithm courses, and quantum safe cryptography. One thing that I will say about a lot of this content, though, is it's fairly advanced in terms of the prerequisite knowledge that students have, and it is very focused on quantum computing like as an end goal in and of itself, as opposed to being embedded in like quantum adjacent fields like chemistry and computer science and that kind of thing. And so what we set out to do, we set out to make classroom modules that fit into traditional STEM courses. And the reason we went with modules is that we're very cognizant of the fact that the curriculum in a course is the subject of a lot of debate between departments and balancing different needs. And so people are not free to just rewrite a huge swath of the course to include quantum computing, but they might be able to make time for a 1 to 2 hour module on quantum computing that relates it to the area of interest. So what we did to that end, I should back up a little bit. The overall goal of this is to facilitate the leveraging of quantum computers as an experimental tool for investigating quantum phenomena. So the idea is that there are a lot of phenomena that are very difficult to realize experimentally that you talk about in courses like quantum chemistry or quantum mechanics, and quantum computers are a really great way to visualize some of these things and to experiment with them. And of course, hand in hand with that is we want to get the future quantum force using real quantum computers as early as possible. And so as I was saying a few minutes ago, to that end, one of our goals was to get in front of likely future quantum practitioners. So we're focusing on things like quantum chemistry, quantum mechanics, and CSC. And we developed modules that are 1 to 2 hour long Jupyter notebooks on key concepts from a quantum computing related course, not a quantum computing course. They have text and Qiskit code, check-in questions, and coding activities for the learner to check their understanding. And they're designed to be easily plugged into existing courses. And hopefully I can convince you that we thought of at least a lot of the things that can go wrong when you're trying to take something modular and fit it into an existing course. And each one is accompanied with by a video that's posted on YouTube that has sort of a quick walkthrough and explanation of what each module is about. So let me give some concrete examples of what these are. We started with a quantum mechanics course because it's what was most familiar to us. And we looked at some of the phenomena that are difficult to realize experimentally and fundamentally quantum mechanical in nature, like the Stern-Gerlach experiment, superposition, Bell's inequality, and quantum uncertainty. And we thought, these are things that either sometimes require expensive setups to realize experimentally, or may just be difficult to realize experimentally, have a lot of setup, overhead, that kind of thing. And they're very amenable to experimenting on a quantum computer. We've just recently developed modules on computer science related topics, notably the Deutsch-Joscha algorithm, teleportation, and quantum key distribution. Specifically the BB84 protocol. But that's kind of an arbitrary distinction. Like, I'm not saying that the CSE students interested in quantum computing wouldn't want to do just a superposition and interference notebook. That would be great. And of course, many physicists would be interested in quantum key distribution. So it's kind of an arbitrary distinction, but it's a 0th order guess. And I want to go into one of these modules a little bit and show what it looks like and some of what we've done to try to make it easy to use. So I'm going to pick quantum uncertainty. And what we do in this module is we use whether the student uses repeated measurements to relate uncertainty in one observable to uncertainty in another, and verify a known uncertainty relation like this. The uncertainty in X and Z has a relationship with the expectation value of Y. And to do this on a real quantum computer, to be able to walk away from it saying, you know, I checked the uncertainty statistics on a real quantum computer and this holds. And discuss the role of noise and errors. And there's like a code challenge where we give them one uncertainty relation to verify, and then they can modify the code to verify a different one. And I'll just to zoom in on this picture for a moment. This is one of the activities from the module where basically students rotate a qubit down from the 0 computational state, so along this polar angle theta, and they check what's the uncertainty in X, what's the uncertainty in Z, and what's the expectation value of Y for each of those steps down the polar angle, and they make a chart like this. And so they could directly, you know, experimentally probe that. And then the coding challenge is like, okay, well, can you implement something to vary it around the azimuthal angle, or can you vary, or can you change which uncertainty relation it is you're calculating or verifying? And the things we've done to make this usable in a classroom setting, we started from backward curriculum worksheets, so really clearly establishing learning goals and providing instructor solutions to check-in questions and a small bank of end-of-lesson questions. And we designed them to be doable using the 10 free minutes per month on IBM Quantum Systems, like well under that, so you could do all of the modules without exhausting that in a month. But we recognize that sometimes things go wrong and people just chew it all up running a very long calculation that they didn't mean to run. So we've included simulator options for each activity so that if something gets messed up and you got to do it on a simulator, it's no problem. You can still complete the activity. Another thing is I think we all know this. Everybody who's been involved in like STEM education knows that people come in with a huge range of computational backgrounds. And so we designed these to be doable as just like click and run activities, where basically the work that they're doing would be interpreting what the results are and talking about like what this means, but not really having to code much of anything. Then there are optional activities that say, okay, can you modify this code, you know, change an X to a Y or whatever it is, for those who have a little bit more coding background. And then, of course, we provide some scaffolding, some links to installation instructions and pages in each module. So again, there's a video component to each one of these. Their videos are posted on YouTube, and the YouTube videos are freely accessible, as are these modules. And oops. I think I'll stop there. I'm going to send links to all of these. There are links to these quantum mechanics modules and these computer science and engineering modules, and also there's also a link to the instructor key request form. We're doing that a little bit funny. We want people to, in order to get the instructor key, we want people to indicate where they plan on using this. So there's like a little survey form, and this is really just so we can know who is interested in these, and you know, are we having an impact or not really? So that's the reason why we ask people to fill out a little form to get the keys. I will share this. I'll share all of these links with everybody who's on this call. But I think this is a good time to turn it over for discussion of whether this looks useful, what we could add, or where we should look next. And in particular, something, maybe I can start it off by pointing out a mismatch in what I was hearing in the first part of this and what we've developed so far. And that is, we've been really hyper-focused on doing the quantum computing, getting quantum computing into the hands of students, having them run a real calculation on a quantum computer. And we thought that that was extremely valuable from the standpoint of building enthusiasm and empowering students. But what we were hearing in the initial discussion was more about what is the underlying, the foundations of the quantum mechanics, like how can we make approachable introductory content for quantum computing? And there was less discussion about actually running something on a quantum computer. And so maybe that's a place to start, to say, like, how important is it that students actually run things on quantum computers? And yeah, I'll stop talking. Happy to answer any questions about this, or we can just dive right into discussion.
Awesome. Thanks, Chris. Yeah, feel free to either raise your hand or go off mute. Questions, comments?
I'll make a comment. I think that the modular way and also the sort of a stacked way of teaching is great. I think allowing folks to manipulate objects or code or whatever as they're learning it's great. And I think this may be a good approach at learning, some of the basic stuff that you might just need to have overall awareness and be on a supporting role, all the way to being able to do more sophisticated stuff. So that's pretty awesome. Thanks.
Thank you. I see Susie, you have your hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for this information. So my initial reaction is that I would not be able to use any of these modules in the classes I teach. Very sorry. I'm really sorry.
That's okay.
So this is the giant impedance mismatch between the quantum information / quantum computing / computer science / complexity analysis, all that good stuff that I'm familiar with from my many years in high performance computing. So at the end of the day, the students that I teach, the courses that I teach, people want to be able to compute stuff and know they're not even interested in quantum advantage. The old joke about Zeno's paradox and the beautiful girl, where you have an engineer and a physicist or a mathematician have to take steps, and they have to have each step before they can get to the beautiful woman. And the engineer says, I'm close enough for all practical purposes. The mathematician ties himself into knots because he'll never get to the beautiful woman. So that's kind of how I feel about the teaching that we do. We want to get to the practical result, which is to get students using a quantum computer with all its warts, with all its imperfections, with all of its everything that's not known yet, with all of its lack of quantum advantage. Who the heck cares? We want to get them onto the systems and starting to code as if it's a real computer that they're going to use in their real live research that they care about. And from our point of view, everything else follows from that. So I don't teach, I'll teach about FFTs on a quantum computer. I'll teach quantum phase estimation. I teach second quantized formulation of quantum mechanics so that I can explain mappings to qubits for fermions. That's what I teach. I don't teach any of this other stuff about the foundations of quantum mechanics and the experiments. That's not what the students that I'm teaching need. They want to be able to do practical things now. And so, from that point of view, and I understand these machines or these systems are horrifically expensive and complicated, but 10 minutes a month, it's almost, you may as well not bother. So, my plan in the short term is to try to use simulators, but really what I think is needed is like a national, place where people can just go apply and get free time through the NSF or through wherever. I know this is probably a fantasy, and just go down and dirty on these machines and learn what they're about and start coding. And from the perspective of applications, that's my feeling about what's needed.
Let me just ask one follow-up question on that. I know we have lots of people waiting to ask questions, but
Yeah, sorry.
no, it's okay. Some of the modules that we have planned are more in line with what you said, and I'll just point out the Deutsch-Joscha algorithm. I mean, that is like you start using it. One of the modules that we're working on right now is on quantum Fourier transforms, and so I'm wondering, is it that is it that most of what I just presented, like these topics, are a poor fit, or you think that probably anything that uses real hardware will necessarily be so bogged down in like error mitigation and topics like that, that they're not likely to be useful and you're just going to stick with simulators for now?
No, I think it's more the lack of available free compute time on the actual hardware. To zeroth order, that is the absolute preference, is to get, again, down and dirty on the actual machines. And but if it's a choice between sort of metered, very, where the metering of the time interferes with the learning and experimentation process, I'd rather not fool around with that. I'd rather have the students have a consistent environment where, to all intents and purposes, they have an infinite amount of cycles that they can use. And from the point of view of the modules, yes, I think a quantum Fourier transform would be useful. Anything that is, I think this is part of the evolving notion of the software stack on these systems, where we're familiar as computational scientists, not computer scientists, computational scientists, with matrix vector multiplies, fast Fourier transforms, sort of, even an inefficient optimization algorithm, anything that will get us close to the kinds of ways that we conceptualize algorithms in the physical sciences will be helpful. Because there's this giant gap between how people talk about algorithms for, I don't know, cryptography. That's completely irrelevant. It will teach my students nothing about what they need to know in order to start thinking about how to map solving the Schrodinger equation for a protein and on a quantum computer. So again, there's this enormous gap right now.
Thank you. I probably will have lots of follow-up questions, but let's hear.
Happy to answer. Yeah, sure.
Sean.
Yeah, just to maybe change the subject a little bit, we have a Foundations of Quantum Engineering course, which for most students is their first exposure to any kind of quantum. And so Stern Gerlach is something we do at the very beginning. And I think it is exciting for students to log on and run a remote computer that's giving real data. And whether that machine is down the hall or in New York, they're not going to care. Just seeing the real data with the fluctuations and noise, I think it is exciting to them at the introductory level. I might ask for a quantum harmonic oscillator package if that's possible. Much of that course we deal with harmonic oscillators and time evolution, and half the papers you read in quantum science is based on harmonic oscillator. So I would put that in as a request.
Yeah, that's probably a good one. We toyed with that one, and all of the implementations felt a little bit artificial because it's so it's sort of just like breaking your spins, looking at one spin at a time as the excitations. It felt artificial, but there's got to be a way. Yeah, I know there's got to be interest in that.
Okay.
Thank you. Jenna.
Just speaking from the community college, like technical education perspective, so it's not going to completely apply to these computer science focused programs. I run an optics program. Optics is usually something people don't get exposed to until they're in graduate school or like just at the end of their physics class in undergrad, right? It's always the last module and then they skip over it for time. So I see our role as introducing these topics much earlier in their career. So the students who are going through my optics program are not going to be using quantum computers as much. They're going to be building the quantum computers. They don't care about physics experiments so much. They care about hardware. They want to know how they work. They get excited about getting their hands on things. They barely know how to use Excel. They don't know how to code. They don't know what a Fourier transform is. So I just wanted to make sure that that voice was represented in that in this conversation. I know I don't want to speak for Linda from Emily Griffith, but I know that they have like a sort of a no prereq program in the works as well. So having some no prereq material and just understanding where some of these students are at would be really helpful to us. But I understand that's not going to apply to some of these more advanced, like graduate level programs.
Yeah, thanks for that. It's definitely it's definitely important to make sure that that group is not getting overlooked, and that content is extremely important. It is very different from this particular project, just because we set out to try to get the quantum computing ingrained as an experimental device in a course. So maybe not for you, but yeah, we definitely have other educational initiatives that are closer to that. Some of the content on IBM quantum learning might be relevant to that, although probably not for the actual building of the devices. That's kept pretty hush hush. Gavin.
Hi, so I'm from Morgan Community College out in Eastern Colorado, and community college as well. So we definitely have like the lower, we're not the graduate classes or anything. So I think these are good courses. And I teach biology, and I also do like large data sets for atmospheric and like chemistry like that. We have a few of those studies. And so quantum computers are important for those like large data sets, doing the actual running the experiments. But we also are trying to implement more of these like extracurricular learning opportunities. And I think that's where a lot of these kind of programs and stuff will be used a lot more of in ours. So like when we have students, right now we have a couple that are interested in like quantum computing, but of course they're like freshmen and sophomore. They have no idea actually like anything yet about it. And so I think this will be a good way of like slowly getting them there with help and explanation. So I like the idea of the little like smaller modules so they can kind of work on it at their own pace with our help. So I definitely like that. It's exciting. But yeah.
Thank you. Let's David, and then let me interject and say maybe after David's comment, I want to pitch it back to Saif, because I think Saif had maybe some specific targeted things that he wanted to direct the discussion to, and so far I've just been kind of dominating it with reactions to the PowerPoint. David, please.
Yeah, no, definitely. Thank you. And maybe I can step into from the Elevate Quantum standpoint. From in partnership with IBM, obviously our goal is to help lean into IBM's goals and existing support. But also from Elevate Quantum standpoint, just like everybody on the call, we are absolutely leaning in and towards what does Quantum 101 look like? If you all remember, from March 7th, that was our very first official Elevate Quantum Workforce Consortium meeting. So, that was the opportunity for us to stand some of this up and then ultimately get it running. And so with this call, I mean, beyond just all of the great feedback, we also are getting more clarity on, what does this 101 curriculum in quantum need to look like? I think maybe we would have, there's 25 of us on here. We might have 25 different answers as to what that is. And so because of that, I will say all of you that are engaged and on the call, we will continue these conversations around Quantum 101 and what the prereqs look like. And so, while that's not the focus of today's phone call, please don't be deterred or don't think that we're not thinking about it. We are, and because we're so intentional, we don't want to rush anything either. And so we just hope that this is more so the beginning of just a multitude of conversations around how do we bring Qiskits into the classroom with IBM, but also a much larger absolute community effort around Quantum 101, quantum prereqs, and how do we get to that mutual understanding that I think we're all looking for. So we are absolutely thinking about it. Is just the piece I want to add in, and so I'll pass it back to Chris or to Saif.
So can I just open real quick? Olivia asked a good question in the chat. If any educators have been using IBM quantum hardware, have you run into any issues with the 10-minute limit on the open plan? That's the free access where you have a 10-minute limit. Has anybody hit that limit or run into issues with that? Okay, that's what I was
That's
just curious. I
awesome.
just wanted to make sure.
Yeah, I
Okay.
had the impression that it was enough for most of the like classroom uses, but okay, that's
Yeah.
really good to know.
Yeah. Okay. Safe, did you have some
Yeah.
more structure questions you want to go to, or?
And you know, Chris, I love the discussion. I love the questions. I mean, I think this is exactly what we're hoping to kind of get is to hear from you on how much of this fits or does not fit. What are the challenges that you might face if you decided to kind of integrate some of this content into your classrooms? And I think I would love to kind of maybe dig deeper into this, kind of what would be the challenges to get something like this integrated in the classroom? And I think you know there was a lot of talk about prerequisites, but you know I think as Chris kind of detailed, I think what's exciting to us is the fact that students can access quantum computing devices, start to kind of think about quantum computing as a different tool to do science. And I think, you know, these modules kind of try to give a good introduction to that with a very variable kind of levels of maybe prerequisites. But are there other you know, challenges that you would face kind of to integrate some of this content? I would love if anyone has any ideas. Is this like, would you be able to kind of take some of these modules, do them yourselves? Would there be issues around access to devices, to software, need for support around? Do you think you can actually go through kind of some of these modules and like, is this, would there be something that we can do to kind of make it easier to kind of figure out where to integrate in your courses? Bing.
Hey, so I'm at a community college as well. So we've only got, 1,000, 2,000 level courses. So I teach physics. Some of this would be absolutely relevant for modern physics. I mean, some of those modules, I'd love to actually use those. I'm curious if, because I know you wanted 2 years on this call too. So I'm curious if you had any, I guess I just want to ask you the same question you just asked us kind of. Did you have any ideas about how we could incorporate this into, underclassmen level courses, like 1,000 and 2,000 level courses? And I also wanted to ask about is part of this really just like the cool factor of, it's a quantum computer and that's why we're doing this? Or is there anything different about the experience that they would actually be able to tangibly understand as it's a quantum computer as opposed to something else?
I can take an attempt, or Chris, do you want to take, maybe I can try something. I mean, I think I mean, the cool factor is certainly there, but really kind of there are two things that would love to see here, and I think this is possible to achieve at a modern physics course. First, to kind of basically bring up some of the fundamental concepts about quantum computing to be a little bit more tangible and experimental for the students, and perhaps explain it in a way different from what they see into their curriculum by interacting with a quantum computer and thinking about it computationally. So I really think about it as kind of foundational computational skills where you kind of distinguish between kind of what you're exposed to classically or not computationally, and kind of thinking about some of these computational skills, like how do you interact with a quantum computer, how do you sample it, how do you represent a state, how do you measure it, how do you sample it? I think that's kind of would be one of the goals at that level. Chris, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so a couple of things on that. So first of all, I think I agree with everything that Saif said at the level for which these modules have currently been developed. But I'm really excited by what you said about like trying to incorporate it at the like 1,000 level. And I've been trying to explore that with some other faculty partners, and maybe we can chat about this offline later. But I think there are places where it can fit very well into the 1000 level. For example, in discussions that typically happen at the 1000 level about uncertainty in measurement and measurement errors, often in conjunction with the laboratory component. You talk about like what are the different sources of error and uncertainty, and the time-tested student excuse. It's human error kind of thing. But you can have a more formal discussion of uncertainty. And introducing quantum uncertainty as another type of fundamental uncertainty in nature, I think would be outstanding at that kind of a level. But to the bigger picture, where you were saying, is it just about the cool factor? It's about the cool factor in so much as that can help motivate students. But it's I would also say that what we're going for is the same additional dimension of learning that you realize in laboratory components of courses, where you get to put your hands on a piece of equipment and control what it is that's being tested and get real world feedback, as opposed to just doing things on a chalkboard. And so like if we believe in that dimension of learning that's facilitated by a laboratory component to a course, then we believe in leveraging experimental tools. And this is what we were trying to do with these modules, is put a direct experimental tool in the hands of students to investigate quantum mechanical properties that are often otherwise difficult to check experimentally.
Yeah, thanks for that. And yes, I'd definitely be open to that discussion. And yeah, one of the modules that I thought would be perfect with the uncertainty module for sure. That did look pretty good.
Sweet. Thanks.
So maybe Bradley, as we have just a few more minutes here, I think maybe the main call to action, and I had copied and pasted your message back into the chat just for relevance again, but I think the main follow-up or the request from your team, Bradley, would be to go into that form and fill it out. And, I think maybe that will give you all the information you need to have kind of more of a next plan of next steps. I know, Bradley, I'll be working with you, in terms of Elevate Quantum support and introductions and anything else that, can happen from there. But I think maybe from our end, for anyone on the call, as we do look to wrap, is there anything that is, pressing or urgent that we want Bradley and team, while we have them on the call, to be thinking about or hearing before, we look to wrap up, but two, I think we hope to move more towards implementation, hopefully for as soon as the fall of this upcoming academic year. And with that, there's going to be a lot of, maybe more siloed projects happening within individual schools. And so while this is not our only higher education get together, we do have IBM at the table, and want to make sure we can have everyone heard, and if not, of course, via email, but want to hold that space.
Yes, just to react to what you said about the next steps, I can send around. I will definitely send around through Bradley, a short sheet with the description of what we just talked about and links to all of the modules that exist, as well as the link to the instructor form. And it's great if you do fill out the instructor key request form. That's fantastic. But you can just look at the student versions and decide, this is for me or it's not for me. It's really just, if you plan on using it in a class, or you think that there's a good chance you might, then do the instructor key thing so we can know what the context is and who's interested in it. Yeah, Annalie. If you're muted, if you're speaking.
Hi. Hey, sorry. I just wanted to make a quick pitch, if that's okay, for the Society of Physics Students, which is the undergraduate network of physics and astronomy majors across the U.S. Just wanted to make sure everyone knew, if you don't already, that there is a Physics and Astronomy Congress coming to Denver in October. It's the largest convening of physics and astronomy majors in the country. So please tell your students, faculty members about it. There's tables available for grad school expos, but it's really an amazing convening for 1,000+ physics and astronomy undergraduates to come together and talk about these topics, do poster sessions, build a community with each other, connect to universities and institutions like yours. So I'll put a link in the chat if you're interested in learning more about that, but also happy to take questions offline too. And probably maybe Jesse or Bradley can help us share contact if there's interest.
CU Denver is the local host for FizCon, and I'm also on the national council, so I can also field questions.
Awesome,
FizCon,
thank
I like
you.
it. I like it. Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. Okay, yeah. So I think, as David said, we definitely want you. Please fill out that form. That way you can get access to the instructor modules. That way too, we know who's interested, so we can follow up with you. So that's the first thing. And it's the link is in the chat for that. Definitely, reach out to me. Let us know what you need as you move forward with this. Like if we've heard some things today, but there might be other things that come up. So we want to hear what you need, and we really want to hear how it's going, right? Like if you do find this useful and this is something that you start to move towards using, we want to hear how it's going, the good, the bad, the ugly, all about it. So please keep us updated. But like I said, first up, please fill out that form. That way you'll get access to the instructor versions of the modules as well, which has additional information and additional useful content and that's not in the student version as well. So with that, I really appreciate everyone's time today. We'll be in touch. We'll be following up with folks who do fill out the form. Yeah, thank you so much, Chris, Safe, for your time today. Really appreciate you coming and joining this call and talking to everyone.
Thanks everybody for giving us the chance to chat about these and for the feedback.
Yeah,
thanks everyone. And thanks Elevate Quantum for hosting this.
Yeah. Of course, yeah, thank you all. And yeah, this is event number one, program number one. We're standing up. Much more to come with all of our amazing partners on the call. So if there's not direct fit today, I promise we got something spinning up, with many other amazing partners. So thank you to Bradley and IBM for really leaning in and really, I think being the example that we're going to continue to build off of. So we're all, very excited about everything happening here, and I think most excited to implement. So with that, yeah, thank you to Bradley and IBM and all of you for your time and attendance today.
Thanks everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thanks all.